Hello, I'm Spudd, and thank you for joining us for the latest creator interview in partnership with Hounds of Gore from the only Army of Darkness fan page on Facebook and Instagram. Does that make us official? You tell us, Dynamite. Our groovy guest today is none other than author James Kuhoric, writer of several Army of Darkness comics and stories that were released between 2005 and 2014. But before I introduce James, though, I would like to introduce welcome my fellow Deadite and bro host, Jake from Hounds of Gore. How you doing, Jake?
Hey, what's up, Spud? How you doing, man?
I'm doing well, thank you. How was your Thanksgiving?
It was good, man. Had a lot of good times with family from like Thursday to Saturday, and then of course, here in the Midwest, we got hit with like maybe 7.5, 8 inches of snow within the last like 48 hours ish.
Mm-hmm.
So it's been good. Yeah, for sure.
Damn. And in the art realm, how's things going there?
Art realm's going well. Currently working on a commission. I finished one up a little while ago. And then I recently got a Dracula blank for the Universal Monsters, so I can finish up my Universal Monsters blank sketch covers. I have my Evil Dead 2 and Jason Voorhees prints, stuff like that. And then these are a couple other. I had to break out some Sweetum skulls that I did. Especially this is probably one of my favorites of the series. And then another Ash one, and then I got my two Dr. Herbert West and Ash for the Necronomicon Rising blanks, which are pretty sweet. So things are going good.
Sweet indeed. All right, thanks, Jake. Well, now let's talk about James Kuhoric, who holds the title of having written more Army of Darkness comic book titles than anyone else to date. He is also the writer of hit franchise comic book titles such as Crossed and Battlestar Galactica, Stargate, and The $6 Million Man. He is also the creator of the hit comic titles Dead Irons and Legendary Tail Spinners. More recently, James is known for his work with American Mythology productions and popular titles such as Hatchet, Night of the Living Dead, Silent Night, Deadly Night, Fright Night, and Return of the Living Dead. Throughout his career, James has won and been nominated for many industry awards, including the Spike TV Scream Award, Gem Award, Comic Monsters Horror Award, and the Stan Lee Eagle Award. Without further ado, may I please introduce Mr. James Kuhoric. Hi, James. Thanks very much for joining us.
Hello. Great to sit down with a couple of primitive screwheads like you guys.
Oh, shucks. Excellent. Well,
I got to say, before we get started here, you guys have some awesome memorabilia background there.
Oh, thanks, man.
Masks and the artwork. Beautiful. That's great stuff.
It's
love it.
It's been a passion.
It's a passion project.
Yeah, not a cheap one. All right. Thanks, James. So, Jake, I think you're up for the.
Yeah. Well, appreciate you coming to talk with us, James. So let's go back to the beginning with Shop Till You Drop Dead, which came out in 2005, and that picks up after the events of 2004's Ashes to Ashes, which was the first comic book sequel to Army of Darkness written by Andy Hartnell. Can you tell us about taking over the story from Andy and kind of where your relationship with Dynamite and the series kind of began?
Sure. Happy to. I'll actually give you an interesting story to start out. The idea to do Army of Darkness comics was mine. I had been working with Dark Horse years before. Dark Horse did the official Army of Darkness adaptation.
Right.
And that thing was a thing of beauty. John Bolton artwork, just an amazing, amazing comic series. But they had given it up, and this was probably, I guess it was the early 2000s when Dynamite was getting first started. And the owner had reached out to me and asked me what comic books I thought he should go after, he should produce. And I mentioned to him, I was a huge fan of Evil Dead and Army of Darkness, and that people couldn't get enough of the adaptation that Dark Horse had done, so we should look at doing a new Army of Darkness comic. And plus, I had hundreds of stories I could tell if he was interested. So they did go after it, and they did get it, as you know. And my story was supposed to be the first story. However, I was outranked by Andy Hartnell and folks. So my story ended up being the second story. So it wasn't actually written as a direct follow-up to their story. It was written at the same time. But I did read the Ashes to Ashes story to make sure that there were no issues with where we were picking up. And of course, I thought it was a great book. I loved what those guys did. It's that series is definitely responsible for getting the Army of Darkness comics up and running. So I'm indebted to Andy and Jay Scott and all the guys that contributed to that book.
Mm-hmm.
He Drop Dead goes, it was written as an homage to the working man. Ash at his heart is a working man. He's been working at Housewares for most of his adult life before heading into the events of Army of Darkness and the other movies. And I certainly had enough experience of my own with regard to dealing with the man in terms of having to work for people. And, just channeled a bit of that inner rebellion, as I was writing that story. And I felt a true kinship with Ash as we went through the events of Shop to Drop Dead. One of the best things about that series is that they let me work with just one of the most amazing artists, Nick Bradshaw, who I can't say enough about his art. Just a phenomenal guy. His artwork is incredible. It's only gotten better. I mean, short of the masters out there, he's definitely one of the most detailed artists I've ever seen. Just the beautiful details and nuances he puts into the art. And the best part about his run on Shop Till You Drop Dead is that he just got it. From the first sample page he did, the first design he did, he got it. He understood that, understood what we were going for.
Mm-hmm.
And the artwork is phenomenal. I think it's the best of the entire run. So that's my personal bias, of course.
No, absolutely. Personally, the artwork of Shop Till You Drop Dead and Nick Bradshaw is what I picture if there were ever an animated series.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah,
absolutely.
Mm-hmm. That's in my brain. That's how it looks.
Well, this is kind of fun. I don't really collect original artwork because that's a rich man's game. But I do happen to have the original Nick Bradshaw cover artwork.
Oh, nice.
Oh, is it on blur?
We're getting a bit of a blur there. I think it might be.
We get rid of that.
Background.
Let's see.
I'm sorry. It looks like I'm not going to be able to show it particularly well.
Oh,
but...
that's. Yes,
that's
I can see it though. It's
there it is. Yeah, right there.
Yeah, issue
that's
one
awesome.
cover.
I love that cover too, man.
Yeah.
Well, I will send
That's
you guys
awesome.
a scan of it so that you can potentially show it a little better when you run the interview.
Yeah, that'd be awesome.
That'd be amazing. Great. Cool. Well, Shop Till You Drop Dead was followed the same year with Army of Darkness versus Reanimator, which signified the beginning of the first Army of Darkness ongoing series, Volume 1. Word has it that it was your favorite series to write. Tell us more about this and what drew you to include elements from Lewis Carroll's Alice in Wonderland.
Well, the series was, interestingly enough, brought together because Dynamite wanted to try to expand their interest in the Reanimator series. So they let me play with the characters that they had developed for the standalone Reanimator, which of course is based on Lovecraft's short story. Right. Who doesn't love that story? I mean, of all of the Lovecraft tales, that might be one of the very best. And having the chance to bring in the elements of the Reanimator, Herbert West Reanimator, into Army of Darkness just made too much sense. There was enough material there that really was parallel to a lot of what was done in the Evil Dead movies and the and Army of Darkness that it just was a perfect pairing. In some ways, that was the first crossover for Ash, leading up to the Ash versus Freddy versus Jason book, which we did a few years later. But it was fun. We did a lot of unusual things. We did, as you said, work in a little bit of an ode to Alice in Wonderland, which of course is wonderfully twisted tale if you read it the right way. And the end result was something pretty special. I think a lot of people enjoyed it. I certainly enjoyed writing it. The story was one of those that just tells itself. And when that's happening as a writer and you're sitting there and the story is just flowing, you know that you're doing something right. And that was the experience with that particular series.
Yeah, I think it just involves, like, at least for me, Reanimator's definitely in my like top 3 films, probably, like horror films. And then on top of that, like, I'm a massive Alice in Wonderland fan too. I think it, on top of like the artwork and stuff, and obviously like huge bias for Evil Dead and Army of Darkness, like it all kind of mashed up perfectly for me too. It's I just love everything about it.
Yeah, that series was drawn by Sanford Green, who also was just a great person and an incredible artist. His art was different from Nick Bradshaw's, but it still had that same flavor of animated violence that really just spread across the page like like an elevator full of blood. It was beautiful.
And kept Bradshaw's tone, I think, as well.
Yeah,
maintained Bradshaw's tone from the earlier. Yeah.
So you contributed 2 stories to the 2006 one-shot anthology Tales from the Army of Darkness. A Dame, Deadites, and a Dimwit explains how Sheila came to arrive in the 21st century between the events of Ashes to Ashes and Shop Till You Drop Dead. Was this segment originally intended to maybe be a part of Shop Till You Drop Dead, or?
It was certainly inspired by that, but it wasn't. It wasn't a cutting room floor portion of Shop Till You Drop Dead. We wanted to tell that story, and I think that Sheila is such a wonderful character that really, I think we really got to give her more of a spotlight in the comics than she had certainly in the movie. And this was just a way to really kind of honor that character and give her her own spotlight to get started. And then we went from there with her appearing in the stories.
Sure.
Yeah, cool. And of course, speaking of the movie, you also got to expand on the original source material for the other short story, You Have No Honor, which is about Kaylor, the slave driver from the Army of Darkness film.
Yeah.
And
it's funny, he was only ever credited as slave driver, and I looked it up today. They actually credit him as Goldtooth now, which I didn't know was a thing. But
also Kaylor was your bestowing a name.
Yeah. It's actually based on a guy I know who, shockingly enough, looks exactly like the actor who played the slave driver.
Really?
And of course, the running joke when I would see him would be that he had no honor, because he certainly didn't. So the opportunity to tell the story and to have it dedicated to him, which I think, of course, he still tells everyone who will listen, he tells that the story is based on him. But
great.
But yeah, that was fun. I always thought he was a fun character in the movie, from getting pushed around to eventually coming around and being one of the people at the defense of the castle. I don't know, I just love those oddball characters, man. The goofier they are, the better. And he was one of the goofiest. So I was very pleased to get a chance to tell a story about him.
That's awesome.
Sure.
So volume 1 of the ongoing series continued in 2006 with Old School, which actually saw the setting return to the cabin in the woods. I know you say original artwork is kind of a rich man's game. I've lucked out on a few, but I do have I was just remembering, I do have issue 5, page 2 of the return here from
Nice.
Kevin Sharp.
Kevin Sharp,
Getting back to the cabin, man.
Yeah.
Did you have to be careful not to include too many references to the Evil Dead 2 movie? And I also remember an unnamed Henrietta making a wonderful appearance as well.
Yeah. No, you licensing rights are tricky for sure, but luckily, in Army of Darkness they have a nice recap, and so there was quite a bit you could pull from that was actually in the movie. And Old School was an homage to the originals of the film franchise. It wasn't necessarily pulled directly from it, but it was certainly an homage. It gave us an opportunity to tell the kind of, what did they call it, grueling horror. I love that. That kind of made the franchise famous. And man, I just love those movies so much. As a kid and growing up, always in my top 5 of horror movies, and having a chance to really do something that gave back, to what it gave to me for all those years. That was pretty special. And of course, working with Kevin Sharp. I've known Kevin for a long time, and he's a phenomenal artist. Very different style from Nick Bradshaw and from Sanford Green, but just a wonderfully accurate, kinetic, wonderfully grisly type art. I just enjoyed it so much. I also have a page from that series that I bought from Kevin, and it's one of my favorites for sure.
Yeah, particularly splash pages, were amazing. For sure. 2006 was a busy year with the ongoing story continuing with Army of Darkness versus the Classic Monsters, which eventually led to the Death of Ash story arc as well. And Volume 1 concluding at the beginning of 2007. Having solo writing credit, did you have creative control of the story throughout the first volume and leading up to Marvel Zombies versus Army of Darkness?
Pretty much. They did make some changes, and there were a few editors who, had issues with some of the things I did. So they made, there were a few adjustments, but mostly it was, creative freedom. The Classic Monsters were pulled from the Monster War series, but that said, they are just that. They're classic monsters. So, had my own sort of thought on what drove them and what should be their motivations. But it was a lot of fun. I mean, you can't go wrong with Dracula and Frankenstein and the werewolf. I mean, those are right from the core of the horror genre. So had some fun with it. I thought we took a little different approach with Frankenstein's monster, and that was fun. I remember one of the things that got cut was a joke. Frankenstein, his monster's name was Michael in the series, and when he meets Ash and he's doing his exposition about don't call me that, my name's Michael, blah blah blah. Ash says back to him, "You mean like Jackson?" And they made me cut that for some reason. They never did give me a good reason why, but
just
whatever.
Didn't want to go there, I guess, for whatever reason.
That's cool. I really enjoyed the famous monsters. Those are always great to have in the story too.
Yeah, I can tell with your drawings there. Those are some fantastic drawings, man.
Thanks, man. I really appreciate that. I lucked out with Kevin Sharp because I have a few pages of original artwork from the Classic Monsters as well, which are pretty sweet.
Awesome.
So Volume 2, man. The second volume of Army of Darkness ongoing series beginning in 2007 saw Ash return to his own dimension after the event of Marvel Zombies versus Army of Darkness with From the Ashes. Can you tell us about taking the story back over from writer John Layman and Ash's adventures in post-apocalyptic Detroit?
Yeah, sure. Well, actually, I'll give you a little bit of a story from before that. they told me that they were going to be passing the torch over to Layman to do the Marvel crossover. And they wanted me to set it up so that it could, flow directly into whatever he was going to do on that other series. So we did that. And one of the things that came out of that was taking Ash to basically putting him in a position where the portal would open and he would essentially see the Marvel Zombies, and that would lead into the Marvel Zombie series. And that takes place when him and Sugar Baby go to a cursed restaurant named Weenieville. And that actually is one of my favorite issues, where we got to have the Weenieville mascot come out and sing his Weenieville song, and then Ash eventually ends up wearing the Weenieville outfit. Just, I don't know, just classic Ash, man. It felt right, that he would be in this giant hot dog outfit fighting Deadites. So that was a blast.
Killed
getting
off
that together
later on as well.
Yeah. I actually wish I could find the original art from that. I'll have to look a little harder and see if I can find that. But yeah, that was just a very fun series.
Don't they do that? They do the Great Army of Darkness like homage of him with like the I don't know, whatever, it's the weenie mascot coming up, and I think he's like on top of him or something like that. I think it's like one of the last issues from
like the movie poster.
Yeah, it's like the movie poster. Yeah.
Yeah. So that was fun. And then rolling into the relaunch, we were very interested in sort of exploring the original alternate ending of Army of Darkness, which of course at this time has been done like 15 times, but back then it hadn't been done. So we wanted to have him wake up in a post-apocalyptic world, and of course this was even before Ash versus Evil Dead, which eventually went that direction as well. Hopefully I didn't spoil it for anybody there, but
they've had time.
But yeah, we just looked at that, and I spent some time thinking about kind of Mad Max-ish adventures for Ash, and kind of a wasteland, and those were the adventures that popped up from that. It was fun. It was interesting. There was always the intention of bringing him back to the regular time, so it was a limited engagement in that particular alternate reality. But it was fun, and I thought we had a lot of great visuals that came out of it, and a lot of interesting new characters and monsters that he got to fight. So that was an enjoyable chapter in the AOD saga.
For sure, with the mutants and what have you, which continued, of course, in The Long Road Home in 2008. This was the first story in the series to be co-written with Mike Reicht, if I'm pronouncing that right, who continued to co-write the series with you for the next few issues and story arcs. Tell us about working with Mike and how this came about.
Mike was great. Really creative guy. He had done a lot of other interesting comic work. And I believe it originally came about because at the time we were starting to talk about Freddy versus Jason versus Ash. And they were wanting me to get things together and be ready to jump on that when the opportunity came through. So the co-writing just helped to lessen the burden of trying to get things out on time. And Mike was phenomenal. He had a lot of great ideas, a lot of clever input. Also a big Army of Darkness, Evil Dead fan. I enjoyed working with him a lot. And then he, of course, took over the reins after I left the regular series for a while. I don't remember how many issues he did, but he did a really nice job. I read those stories. I enjoyed them. I thought they were clever. They went in a different direction than I would have gone. To some respect, that's the best compliment I can give, because if I'm, as a fan, reading it, enjoying it, then you're doing something right. It's one thing to say as a co-writer that I was happy with, working with him, but it's another thing to pick up a story that he did after me, and be able to say, I enjoyed this. I really did. It was something that I enjoyed reading as a consumer, not as a writer, not as a comic industry professional, but as just a fan.
Sure. That's great. Yeah. Things reset in 2008's Home Sweet Hell, where memory wiped Ash is involuntarily nominated to be the next Sloth by the 7 Deadly Sins.
Yeah.
Tell us about that story and your inspiration behind the antagonists.
It's funny. The inspiration behind that is another classic horror movie that I really loved, and that's Pumpkinhead.
Okay. Yeah.
Pumpkinhead was vengeance, and I always loved the idea that there were other deadly sins and types of kind of conjured spirits in the same ilk. So that's one of the inspirations for that, and of course, it just made sense that Ash would be the spirit of sloth. But that was a fun series too. We had a lot of fun with that. Mike gave some good feedback on that. We just were trying to do something a little different, and really that's the hope, is that we can take something that everybody loves and give them something they haven't seen before, something that is true to the roots, is true to the characters, but gives them some new enjoyment from a series that everybody truly in the horror field loves. And of course, again, this was all before Ash versus Evil Dead, which was just, I know that's not on the itinerary for us to talk about, but I love that series.
Let's talk about it.
I got to say, I've been around for a while, and I've seen a lot of movies. I don't think I've ever seen anything that took a series of movies and then made a television series so perfectly for the first 2 seasons. It was perfect. Like I wouldn't have changed anything. Everything about it was perfect. The characters, the actors, the adventure, the Deadites, the new story, everything about it was phenomenal. I still watch it regularly. Every year I come back and rewatch it. Those first 2 seasons, I've never seen a show come back and be that good. I mean, phenomenal.
Yeah.
Of course, I'm reminded of that morgue scene. That'll go down in cinema, TV history, I think, with Ash in the morgue. With the,
oh my God, yeah.
Wearing the body.
it just was perfect. I mean, yeah. I know probably 99% of the character is just Bruce being Bruce, but I mean, they put him in situations, and it was wonderful. It's one of my favorite things to date. Just I have to rewatch it regularly. It's so good.
With good cause.
Yeah, I mean, I love it. You know what I mean? Like, without, like, I only stumbled upon like the Army Darkness comics probably, I don't know, like maybe like 2022 ish, and like from only having like the movies and stuff, and then finding those, like now I have like a whole another world where I can explore and still enjoy all these extra stories that I didn't have previously. So I really appreciate it. Yeah.
Well, that is me in a nutshell. If you want to know the truth, I grew up in the era where there weren't readily streaming things on television that you could just watch when you felt like watching it. And so getting adventures, I loved licensed comics since I was a kid, because it was more adventure, more of the things I loved that you just couldn't get. There wasn't fan fiction. There wasn't, fan films. There wasn't all the stuff there is today. So when I got a Star Wars comic book, it was more Star Wars. It was more Battlestar Galactica. It was more of whatever the licensed comic was. It was more of something I loved that you just couldn't get. Yes. So that's kind of where I came from in terms of how I approach licensed comics. It's that, first and foremost, you have to love with all of your heart. You have to love the content, right? It has to be something you're passionate about. I won't take a job writing a story for something I don't like. I just won't, because I wouldn't do a good job. So
Makes sense.
it has to be something you're super passionate about. You have to love it. You have to breathe it. You have to have it in your core. And then you sit down and say, how can I bring this to life in a different way? And that's how every story I write starts, you know. I usually will binge watch the source material, the movies, the TV series, whatever it is. I'll binge watch it, and then I'll just get myself in the right mind space for whatever I'm trying to do. And that's where it begins. That's where the storytelling starts. You know, what aspect really caught my eye? What was something that happened in, you know, one of the movies or one of the episodes that I think could inspire some longer formed story or some other approach that could be entertaining for people. And that's just how I go about dealing with telling stories from these wonderful worlds where we all love these characters, and you have to show them the appropriate amount of respect and love, or people will know. They'll know you just sort of hacked it out, you know. And that's the one thing I never do, is I refuse to hack something out. It's got to be something I love, and it's got to be something I can really, you know, dig into.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Love it.
Respect that. That's great. Back to it. Jake, well, wait, no, me. You also managed to squeeze in a Christmas special one year as well with Ash's Christmas Horror. Tell us about bringing Christmas and Deadites together.
Yeah, I mean, the idea behind this was just, you know, what if Ash was in Charlie Brown Christmas? That really was kind of the idea. So we took, you know, they gave me the okay to do pretty much what I wanted, as long as I didn't get, you know, close enough to get in trouble legally. So I put Ash through kind of all of the holiday classics in sort of a twisted Deadite way, and you know, that was a blast. A lot of people don't even know that issue exists. I rarely get those to sign when I show up at conventions, but yeah, it was fun because you know, it's again, part of our shared history. All these holiday programs that we saw as kids. You know, so having a chance to kind of ruin those was great.
Yeah, right. It's even better when it's like you throw a little bit of horror in there. I just managed to snag. I just managed to snag.
There's already a lot of horror just under the surface of most of those things. You just got to bring it out a little bit.
Right.
You also got to send Ash and Sheila back to the 1300 AD setting for one issue with King for a Day, with Sheila's then unnamed brother making an appearance. And did you know that writer Tony Fleece later named Sheila's brother Michael in the comic series Army of Darkness Forever after our very own Spudd?
Nice, very nice.
Yes.
I did not know that.
Little claim to fame, that one.
I do.
No one gave him a name, so.
Michael does seem to be a popular name. You mean like Jackson? So I do love Tony Fleece's work. He is phenomenal.
Yeah.
I like his artwork too. The guy is just multi-talented and just
for sure. Yeah.
You know, an awesome writer and artist. And I was glad he picked up the reins for some AOD work, because his sense of storytelling is really quite wonderful. And if you haven't read Stray Dogs, that is just a great series that you know, a creator-owned series of his that shows just how strong he is at you know, telling some pretty wonderful, slightly twisted stories.
Yeah,
and Feral at the moment as well.
And Feral
in a similar vein. Very much so.
But no, I didn't know he was going to name him Michael. But that's interesting that he chose that.
Yeah, we had some chats, and I helped him out with some bits and bobs, and yeah, it was just.
He should have just named him Spudd. I'd have been happier with that.
But it fits 1300 AD.
Potatoes back then, you know, it makes sense.
That's great. Hellbillies and Deadnecks. which was the last story you actually contributed to for the second ongoing series. I enjoyed the bearded, strung-out Ash with cabin fever and his Wilson-like chainsaw that he talks to for company. I forget what my question was. I just really like this one. Oh, yeah. Why did you leave? What happened there exactly? Inquiring.
Why did I leave? Was this, I'm trying to remember if this was right when Freddy versus Jason versus Ash happened, or if this was after that.
That was sort of happening at the same time, wasn't it, really? Or concurrently?
I know that that was the original reason for leaving, was that I was moving on to do the Freddy versus Jason versus Ash. And they were talking about relaunching again and trying a different voice, which again, I was okay with. I had told a lot of stories in the Army of Darkness world, and I enjoyed it a ton. So giving someone else a chance to make some stories was definitely the right thing. I never said I wouldn't come back to it. I just never have had the opportunity. I've been really busy with a lot of different things, but if they wanted me to come back, I would definitely come back. I have a story I wanted to tell, so it's been a while. I think it would be fun to step back into those shoes. And of course, I've enjoyed everything that's come out since then.
Yeah,
there've been a plethora of different writers and different voices and different approaches, all of which have been interesting in different ways. But I would come back to it. I think that's something that my love for Ash and for the AOD universe has only gotten stronger over time. I would like to give them something new. I mean, they've done a lot of crazy stuff. Ash in space, Ash gets hitched. I mean,
yeah,
they've done a bunch of interesting kind of twisted things. But I feel like if I had a chance to step back in, I would probably lean into some of the horror aspects a little harder, because a lot of the stuff that's been done has been, humor first, which is a part of it, but I don't feel is the core part of it.
Bring it back to the horror. Yeah.
So yeah, I would definitely come back to it. I would. I'd love to have another chance there. There've been so many great comics too. In addition to Army of Darkness, there was a couple-year run of Evil Dead 2 comics, which were very interesting. They were fun.
Yeah.
There hasn't been an Ash versus Evil Dead, which I thought was interesting. That would be kind of neat. I know that one of the series Dynamite did was called something like that, but it was Ash versus Army of Darkness. Maybe.
Ash versus Army of Darkness.
Yeah,
that's right.
But yeah, I think there are still ways to go that could entertain and have people enjoy stepping back into the role of Ash. So hopefully that will happen some point.
Yeah, I hope so too. Definitely love to have you back. So you also did return in 2014 with the short story Promotion Commotion, part of the one-shot anthology comic 1992.1. Can you tell us a little bit about the story, your brief return, and the big question? Well, it looks like you already answered that. Would you return to write more Army of Darkness stories in the future if the opportunity arose? And yes, you would, and we'd love to have you back. But
yeah, I don't remember exactly how 1992.1 came about. I know they were collecting short stories, and they wanted, I think, a maximum of 8 pages. And I just was looking for something that hadn't been done before, So we sort of had a story about Ash's regrets, which I thought was, for an Army of Darkness comic, fairly poignant, but I kind of don't like that that's the last story I did, because it wasn't really indicative of kind of how I like to handle Ash in general.
Sure.
But it was,
you definitely went back to that working slob thing, didn't you? Absolutely.
What was that?
You definitely went back to the working slob, S-Mart, looking for his promotion, big promotion.
Yeah. But it was it was good to step back into those shoes. I just wish I'd had a little more meat on the bone, with the story, because it was a very limited scope story. But
Sure.
but it was okay. It was fun. I want to say it was just that they needed an extra person to fill in, and they reached out to me, and I just happened to have a short story. But but yeah, that unfortunately was the last of my Army of Darkness only comics.
So far.
But that does lead us to your next topic, which I think was Freddy versus Jason versus Ash.
We haven't been avoiding it. We have not been avoiding it. We just wanted to give it its own spotlight. So, Freddy versus Jason versus Ash, we got to speak to writer Jeff Katz about his story treatment. That was the basis for what became the 6-issue series released in 2008. Tell us about running with and expanding on Jeff's story treatment.
Well, Jeff, first of all, I will say, is one of the greatest dudes. Just a genre guy, loves horror, has this incredible pedigree where he worked with New Line. He was a part of all those great movies. Getting to know him and to work with him was really just fantastic. I mean, that was the real payment for that issue. It was, being introduced to a guy who's been involved in so many aspects of the horror movies that we love. That was great. And he was phenomenal. His treatment was, what was really incredible about it was, you hear the story about the proposal for Freddy versus Jason versus Ash and how it floated around and how they were really trying to make the movie. And it was basically a handwritten outline of beats, right? It was, this happens, this happens, this happens, this happens. And he gave it to me and gave me his blessing and said, here it is, do with it what you will. And I really had the chance, 99% of the creative in that is me. And I just had the chance to have so much fun with Freddy and with Jason, and of course with Ash. I never thought I'd have that chance, man. It just three of the all-time greats in terms of the horror genre, and three of my personal favorite all-time movie monsters and whatnot, and it was phenomenal. I've told the story before that comics can be a little bit like movies, in that when you're working with big companies like DC and Wildstorm and whatnot, there's a lot of hurry up and wait. So everyone wanted to do the comic, and it was going to happen. The comic was going to happen, but it took months and months and months before they actually agreed to do it. And I knew that ahead of time they were wanting me to do a tryout, which I thought was kind of odd, given that I'd written, 20 some issues of Army of Darkness. They sort of know what I could do.
Sure.
But they asked me to do a tryout section, 7 or 8 pages of the first issue, to see what it would feel like. So it was a lot of waiting, and then I actually was leaving to go on vacation with my family, taking my kids to the ocean, which I live on the East Coast, so you can get to Ocean City in 3 hours. It was a car ride. And I was packing the car up, and I got the phone call, and it's the editor at Wildstorm. And he said, "Hey, great news. We're doing the book. I need you to send me over a sample chapter, and I need it by Monday." And this was like Friday. So, of course I said, yes, sure, absolutely, I'll do it. And so we packed the car, and I told my wife, I gave her my keys and said, "You're driving." And pulled out the laptop and started cranking out the first 8 pages of FVJ VA #1.
Wow.
And my inspiration for that first sequence was I wanted it to feel as much like a Friday the 13th movie as it could. Because the first issue basically is setting up Freddy and Jason and their interaction with Ash at the very end, basically being introduced. Ash is narrating it, but at the end he's introduced, physically. So that's what I did. I really tried to channel, I had watched every Friday the 13th like 10 times leading up to this. And I just did the pacing that way, and I did the introduction that way. There's a commentary out there somewhere that I did on the first issue that basically walks through my thought process on every page. And I sent it over to them, on Monday as requested. And it took them about a week to get back to me. And what shocked me was when they got back to me, they said they loved everything. They didn't make any changes. It was good to go. Finish the rest of the story. And usually, working with those bigger companies, there's always a dozen tweaks they want for editors to make their mark, so to speak. But they didn't make any changes at all. I was shocked. It made it through. Basically, it made it through 4 sets of editors, because you had Wildstorm, Dynamite, you had MGM, and you had New Line / Warner Brothers that had to read through it and approve it, and there were no changes, which to me just felt like it was the unspoken nod of approval that nobody wanted to make any changes to the first script. So I was very pleased with that.
Yeah, that's awesome. The Freddy versus Jason versus Ash comics and trade paperbacks are arguably the most sought after books to feature Ash Williams. Given the issues with the rights for the Friday the 13th franchise in recent years, not to mention Wildstorm imprint ceasing to exist, do you think we'll ever see these books reprinted and re-released? And Jeff didn't really seem to think that they would.
They are hard to get. That first issue, I think the print run was like 30,000, which is not a lot for a book like that. Especially now that it's been, how many years has it been since that book came out? It's been decades. But the issue that, the way I understand it, is that the legal rights for Friday and Nightmare are probably what's holding that back. But I do know that it's discussed every year, bring it back into print. Just a reprint, reprint the trades. It's discussed every year, and every year I hope that it gets the green light. But so far, no luck. You never know. It could change. I hope that it does, because it's hard for somebody who wants to discover it to actually do that,
get their hands on it. It's hard to spend. It's really, for me too, like it's hard to justify spending, $20-25 on a single book, just a single issue, when, if I wasn't such like a diehard fan, like if it was just something that I was stumbling in, like I probably wouldn't pick it up just because of the price. And then the trades are even more expensive than that. They're like, a couple $100. So
I know it's crazy. And I do feel bad about that, because I had, as a creator, I think I got like 8 copies of the book when it first came out. I wish I had bought a whole bunch more, because, over the years I've given some away and whatnot. But they're just impossible to get. And if you're, to be honest, if you're getting it for $20 or $25, you're getting a deal. So you might want to grab that.
Those are for like the, fine, very good kind of, fine. If you're looking for like near mint or, very fine, you're gonna pay more than that. So, and then depending on the rarity of it, it's rough. It's rough.
I really wish we could get it out there. I just don't know the answer, unfortunately. With the rights being tied up, but
with so many people's hands in the pot, it kind of, it definitely makes it a lot harder to get it back.
Yeah, it'd be great though. I mean, I meet people when I do conventions all the time who are trying to put together sets. They've got the second printings and stuff. The second printings are really rare, because I think they only printed a couple thousand of those. but yeah, they're just tough to get. They're hard, and of course, nowadays, horror resellers understand what they have, and they jack those prices way up. It's just tough to get them.
Yeah, most definitely.
Sure. Excuse me. Sorry. The first comic series did draw from and expand on Jeff's story treatment, setting the stage for the sequel, Nightmare Warriors. Did you feel like you had a bit more control with the direction and plot of the sequel?
Yeah, I would say that. I mean, Jeff did the same thing with Nightmare Warriors. He had an outline that he put together with the major beats, and he let me kind of fill in the details, let me fill in the holes, and we did that. Of course, it follows the standard, the standard program where your sequel has to have bigger and better kills. So we up the ante there. But it was a lot of fun too. Both those series, I'm very proud of both. I think the first one is better in terms of just pure Freddy, Jason, and Ash storytelling. But the second one was a lot of fun too, and I think people will enjoy it. Slightly cheaper, you can get those, though they're fairly pricey too at this point. But it was fun. It's funny. I've had fans always come up and talk to me about the series, and I had one young lady come up, and she just laid into me about killing Lori in the first issue. Lori is the girl that survived Freddy versus Jason.
Sure.
And I said, you can be mad at me if you don't like how Lori died. I did control that, but it wasn't my choice to kill her. I liked Lori too. That was in the outline that Lori was going to die. Yeah. So, I said, you can blame me for how she died, but you can't blame me for her dying. You got to blame Jeff Katz for that.
Do you think we'll ever see these characters come together maybe one more time? I know you've previously expressed, interest in rounding out the series as a trilogy.
Yeah, that was supposed to be a trilogy. It was supposed to be actually, at the time, New Line still had Texas Chainsaw Massacre also. And so the third volume that I had written, and we even had spot art done for, was going to be Ash versus Leatherface.
Oh, wow.
And it was very, it was very different in that it was a Texas Chainsaw Massacre story with Ash. It was very grueling. And we got pretty far with it in terms of it getting put together, but then everything fell apart and it never saw the light of day. But there are images out there from an artist named Grant Bond, who I worked with later on Legendary Tailspinners. And it was going to be a lot of fun. Ash basically rides away on the motorcycle at the end of Volume 2 and was going to drive through Texas when he stumbles upon the Leatherface and his family. And it was going to be good. It was going to be a lot of fun. It was going to be a true nod to some horror classics, but unfortunately it didn't happen. I would love, of course, to do another series, whether it's Freddy versus Jason versus Ash 3 or versus any other major monster or character. I just love all these things. I'm a horror guy at my heart. I've always been just a huge fan of 70s and 80s and 90s horror. So having a chance to do any of that stuff with Ash Williams, I would jump at it in a heartbeat. Any of them. You name the character, I would do it.
Yeah, sure. Well, I really need to read that Texas Chainsaw Massacre crossover now. So we need to go back to a timeline where that exists.
Well, if Dynamite wanted to do it, we certainly could do a generic nod to that particular movie and do a storyline where he faces, some chainsaw wielding maniacs. But I don't know.
Hellbillies and Deadnecks too. Jason Craig, interior artist for both series. Do you feel like he conveyed your writing and captured the story well?
Yeah, he was great. Jason is the biggest Friday the 13th fan you'll ever meet.
Oh yeah.
There was no question who his favorite character was in the series, but I thought he did a great job. He tried really hard to do what we were going for with Ash, which is make him a little older. And this is, of course, before we got to see him older in Ash versus Evil Dead. But I thought he did a really nice job. He has a way of capturing the creature's movements that really I thought jumped off the page. So I enjoyed his artwork there. I thought he really did a nice job. And of course, like I said, when you get to know people and you understand what they really like, it was easy to see when the pages would come in that he was just loving drawing these guys. So
yeah. That's awesome. This would have been a big project either way, having to gather all these iconic characters, moments, references from all three franchises. Where do you even begin to intertwine all these elements into like a single movie or even a comic series?
Where do you start, in terms of telling a story? Or
even like making sure you include, right, like even Freddy's in itself he's a larger than life character too, just like kind of Ashes, right? So it's like, how do you incorporate all those things that make him Freddy, on top of everything else, right? And not have the comic be just about one person, right?
Right. That was a big challenge, was screen time, if you will, right? So
right, yeah.
Each character sort of has to have their own moments. And of course, the unspoken rule is that nobody can really win.
Right, yeah.
So it was challenging, but I think when you are as close to these characters as I am and as the fans are, I think that it is just a matter of making sure that you're really channeling each of them and not shorting one. Like of the three, the easiest one to short would be Jason because he doesn't speak.
Right.
But Jason, there's a lot more to Jason than just, there he is, he's unstoppable, So I felt like if you really understood the characters and really tried when you're telling the story to tell it from each of their perspectives, and also to really just make sure that each one has a chance to be themselves, to let the story breathe. It's actually why I'm glad the two series were 6 issues, not 4 issues.
Sure.
Because it really was an opportunity to to let it spread out. But yeah, that's how I approach it. I always want to make sure that each character gets the love, so to speak. They have to have their moments to shine, and they have to make sense. It can't just be forced. It has to make sense, and that's where I thought Jeff's treatment was brilliant, in that it really did sort of have equal beats for each of the characters. And I had just a wonderful time writing the dialogue and coming up with a lot of the goofy little bits that you see in those series. That was pretty much me. If it wasn't a major, turning point of the story, all the in between meat, it was me, and that was just pure love, man. A pure love letter to all three.
Mm-hmm. Nah, obvious. Did you feel confined at all with Dynamite, of course, only having the rights to Army of Darkness? Did you have a bit more freedom perhaps with Jason and Freddy than with Ash as a result?
That's a really good question. I had been used to writing Ash from Army of Darkness for quite a while. So I felt like I understood him the most in terms of what I could get away with and what I couldn't get away with.
Sure.
Jason and Freddy are a different story, just because I had never worked with Warner or New Line, or Wildstorm for that matter. And I wasn't sure how much they would let me lean into the R-rated aspect of the movies. I mean, all the movies are R-rated, which allows for, the violence and the creative violence specifically. So I wasn't sure, that they would sort of let me play the way I was used to. But they did, they did, and they didn't have any problems with most of what we did. There were a couple little things in the end that made us change, but it was very minor. Most of what you see there is what was originally in the stories, and I feel really lucky that the people who were in charge of Freddy and Jason at the time were so flexible, so willing to kind of let us play.
Nice. I think we briefly touched on this next question as far as, Jeff Katz mentioned that he originally envisioned an older Ash, more akin to who we see in Ash versus Evil Dead. Was this changed to fit your own Army of Darkness comic universe?
He was aged up a little bit, but it wasn't like Bruce in Ash versus Evil Dead, because that was even years later. But
right,
we had him a little older than he was in Army of Darkness, but it wasn't it wasn't really substantial. He wasn't paunchy or balding or anything. It was it was him a little bit older, but yeah, I think it worked out okay. Ash Prime is probably Evil Dead 2. That's just when Bruce was just unstoppable basically in that film.
Mm-hmm. Sure.
And of course Army of Darkness is only a few years after that, but man, I love those movies. Just love watching them, love feeling them, love laughing at them. Even years later, when you know exactly what's going to happen, what's going to be said, I still love them.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah,
absolutely. Lastly, what did you have any favorite kills from the series of Freddy versus Jason versus Ash? I know Jake personally loved the grocery cart mincing of the old guy, and the clipboard through the S-Mart boss's mouth.
Yeah, those are good.
Those are just some great kills. Great kills.
I think those are probably two of my favorites too. They were fun. I mean, like I said, even kills that weren't terribly creative, if you will, like being skewered by rebarb, or a million other ways that people died in that series. But it was just fun. It was just a lot of fun. And like I said, the one thing that I always came back to on each page was I being completely in the moment with how the characters would act in a movie or a TV series. And that led to, the kills basically flowed from there. The grocery cart one. I used to work at a grocery store when I was a kid. And I have to admit, I wish that death on more than one person. But having a chance to actually do it in the comic page was pretty great.
Come to fruition.
Yeah.
Awesome.
That's
awesome.
Some other questions now. Conscious of your time as well. Sorry, Jake.
Oh yeah, you're good. I think you kind of. I'm gonna say you kind of answered this next question as far as who's been your favorite Army of Darkness cover or interior artist to convey your writing. I would maybe say that was Nick Bradshaw, possibly.
Yeah, it's close, but Nick definitely was the best. Nick Bradshaw, Kevin Sharp, You know,
Kevin Churchill.
those were some of my favorites. Sanford Green, he's up there. Jason Craig. Yeah, all those guys. I can't complain about anyone who's drawn an Army of Darkness comic. They've all been great. They've been flexible in terms of taking notes if I had something I didn't like, or something I saw a different way when the pages came in. Like, the only thing, if I'm gonna spill the beans, there was a scene in the Versus Reanimator series where I had written a very descriptive death for somebody, and Sanford drew it off screen, which kind of bummed me out, to be honest.
A little bit of a cop out, isn't it?
But
Sanford, come on, man.
that's a very minor complaint, but
yeah.
But yeah, all those guys did just great work. I mean, I'm pretty blessed, really, when you think about it. When I've had a chance to work with so many incredible artists, that each one of them brought their own level of passion for the product, for the stories to the page, and it's been a great experience. Having a chance to see sort of things that are in my head brought to life by super talented people. It's been a great experience.
For sure.
Yeah, you had a great
Good team. Great creative team. You did mention earlier that you've kept up with some of the later Army of Darkness stories. You continue. Have you any of note that stood out to you?
Well, Army of Darkness is on my pull list. There have been so many good stories. I really enjoyed what Tony did. Tony Fleece, what he did.
Forever.
I thought the space one was interesting because, honestly, when I read they were taking him to space, I thought somebody's gonna be doing a Jason X homage here. I just know it. And they didn't actually go, but I thought they were going to. That was fun. It's kind of a guilty pleasure. I enjoyed Ash versus Red Sonja. That was somewhat unexpected to be as good as it was.
Yeah, Tim Seeley did a good job on that one.
Tim Seeley,
yeah. Jim Terry.
But yeah, no, I read the books. I probably missed one or two here or there, but yeah, for the most part, I try to keep up with it. It is, like I said earlier to you guys, Evil Dead, Army of Darkness. It's one of my all-time favorites. So whether I'm doing it or not, I'm still a huge fan. And in some ways, it's more fun to enjoy it just as a fan sometimes, which I've had the chance to do for the last decade. It's been fun seeing what other people, think Ash should be doing. And the best part about being a fan is that you can complain if you don't like it.
Why we're here. No. Cool. Jake's got a good one about.
As you know, I'm a huge American Mythology fan, and everything you guys put out for them. Me and one of my buddies did have a question. Will American Mythology still release previously announced titles like Ghoulies, or have they been kind of scrapped because of the whole Diamond Distributors debacle that's continuing to go on?
Yeah, it's been a hell of a year. For those who don't know, Diamond Comic Distributors was for like 40 years the main conduit from publishers to comic book stores. And so basically they would solicit the books in the catalog, the previous catalog, and then retailers and consumers would buy their copies, and copies would go into comic shops, and that's where you would find them. Well, they filed for bankruptcy in January this year, and it has been, frankly, a shit show this whole year. They have stolen so much money from so many publishers. It is not funny. Plus, completely disrupted the industry in terms of stores being able to get their product. So without going into too much detail, because there is ongoing litigation right now
Sure.
with Diamond and their bankruptcy estate, it drove us to the point of being out of business, American Mythology. Between the money and the inventory that they seized, it was really close. And American Mythology is not a big company. It's me.
Right. Yeah.
it's a company of one. And I have managed to hang on, even though it's still ongoing. And we do plan to start publishing again next year for our 10th anniversary. 2026 will be 10 years of American Mythology.
Wow.
And those books that were solicited, we do plan on getting them out. I think it's like 7 books that were solicited and didn't come out, 7 or 8. The plan is for them to come out at some point next year, along with some big announcements about new properties that we have. And we've got a couple great ones that are going to be a lot of fun for people. Can't really go into detail on them yet because there's still a few I's to be dotted, T's to be crossed on the contracts, but some new horror movies, classics. And also we're working with an actor who, you know, if Ash is the everyman, this guy is, you know, 1B. He's Ash from a different series, if you will. But we're hopeful to get the announcement about that out real soon. And, you know, it's going to be a big year for us. We're looking forward to getting the old books out, getting the new books out, getting some new creators, some new cover artists that people haven't seen work with us before.
Yeah.
Lots of great horror stuff. I mean, you know, for people who don't know American Mythology, we've really dug into classic horror movies and tried to deliver some fun stuff that I think most horror people, when they discover them, are really excited about. I was going to show some covers here, but obviously with the blur, I don't think we can. So I'll just mention some of the books. But you know, we've got we did Willy's Wonderland, we did Silent Night, Deadly Night, Fright Night, Valentine Bluffs Massacre, which is My Bloody Valentine, Return of the Living Dead, Night of the Living Dead, Hatchet. Just a lot of great horror comics that you know, I think are a lot of fun. And if you like what we did with Army of Darkness, I think you'll really enjoy what each of these has done, because we take, you know, great care to make sure that we're delivering something that's super true to what the originals were, and also expanding it into new areas. So we did do our own crossover. I don't know if you knew this or not, but we did a Silent Night, Deadly Night versus My Bloody Valentine.
Yeah, I had that one.
Yeah, it was a one shot.
Yeah.
And it was fun. It was a lot of fun. I think it would have been better if we could have done a longer series, but you know, multiple companies owning the rights sometimes is a challenge. So
sure.
But we did get to do the one issue, and it was a lot of fun. I think people, if you haven't seen it, you know, check it out. A lot of people love the Return of the Living Dead that we did. We did a 4-issue series. We have a new one shot coming out next year, based on the Tar Man, that I think fans will really enjoy. Yeah. Tar Man's a favorite of everybody's.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. So I guess that was a long answer to a short question. But yes, we will be publishing new comics next year for our 10th anniversary, and pretty much everything that was solicited and hasn't officially been canceled yet, but it will be at some point canceled and resolicited through new outlets.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Excellent.
Awesome. Yeah, I mean, you guys do. You did, you know, what you're doing for Army of Darkness. For me personally, you know, these are, you know, a lot of the stuff that I collect are like from, you know, horror movies. I'm like, oh my God, they have a comic, you know, I gotta go get that. And I love what American Mythology is doing, man. it's awesome.
I wish I could tell you more
I'm a
about
huge
some of the new properties we have, because you're really going to go
Yeah.
crazy when you hear about them. But for the moment, I got to say mum's the word until
On the wraps.
Yeah.
until I'm allowed to talk about it.
Well, yeah, man, I can't wait. It's going to be great, I'm sure.
Excellent. No, we've covered the next couple of questions. Thanks for explaining what's going on with the whole Dynamite debacle, and sounds like a right nightmare, but hopefully come through it with some stories to tell and better for it. And we were also going to ask you what you're working on at the moment, but I'm sure that's all keeping you busy, and next year's releases as well. So
Yeah, that's that. Really, for the last 6 months, I've been working on trying to survive what's happened, and come up with ways to to get our stuff rolling again. I don't think it's a secret that at the end of May, basically, they took all the new product and didn't pay anyone for it. So, I paid all the creators, I paid all the printers, I paid the retailers, got paid, money when they sold the books. The only one who didn't get any money was me. So,
yeah, right. And it's
that
not like you can just switch. You can't just
put us in a
change.
tough spot. But
You can't just change distributors when all your stock is being held by another.
Yeah.
Can you?
Yeah.
So.
That's 10 years worth of my life that they're holding ransom. Because they were our main distributor and we were exclusive. So they stored a lot of my inventory, and then to just claim it's theirs, it's just crazy. But that's the world, and that's how bankruptcy works, is that the laws are written to help the banks, not to help anyone else. So we're fighting, and hopefully that chapter will be over soon and we can put it all behind us and look at a brighter future.
Well, you got my money, man. I will always spend money on American Mythology. I love your stuff. So
thanks, brother. Just getting the word out is the biggest help, because like I said, we've been publishing for 10 years. It's coming up in January, and a lot of people just don't know we exist. They don't know that those comics exist. They don't know that American Mythology's been doing this forever. But anything to get the word out, and if fans discover us, I think they'll be really happy. And the good news is most of my back issues don't cost $25-$30 a piece. So
good man.
Excellent. I've just got some other questions from one of our fans here. Minecraft Troller calls himself. Jake.
So as I will dive into my personal archive again. What was the significance of Sugar Baby's lower spine tattoo of the Necronomicon seen in Old School? It only appears in about 3 panels and was never elaborated on again. And Spudd can pull up one of my original artworks that he has.
Certainly will. In 1 moment.
It's,
but yes, I'll let you answer.
It's funny, Sugar Baby was meant to be a regular character in the series, and of course she was from Reanimator 1 through issue 13 when it jumped over to the Marvel Zombies crossover, and she was meant to be sort of a Army of Darkness level magic user, sorceress, witch type character. Sort of a sassy witch, if you will. She was supposed to be his modern version of Sheila, so to speak. She was gonna be at some point maybe a love interest, but we went a different direction with the launch afterwards, where it sort of changed the timeline, and so she was not abandoned. I always had intention to come back to her. But for the purposes of the stories after Army of Darkness, Marvel Zombies, the timeline jump to the future world sort of took her out of the picture. The tattoo was just indicative of early storytelling to give you a hint that there's more to her than you know. we weren't specifically saying that she's, you know, of the Necronomicon, but the intention was that she would be able to use it in some ways that obviously Ash never was able to use it to any extent other than to cause trouble for himself.
Sure.
So the tattoo didn't actually start out, I think, as my idea. It started out as something that Kevin wanted to put on her.
Yeah.
So you know, so that's really where it came from. And then we were going to have the book sort of influence her, not fully take her over, but start to change some of her personality traits. But again, you know, we unfortunately went away from this particular timeline, and I didn't have a chance to really elaborate on it. I mean, you see here, that's issue 6. It's issue 10.
Right. It's issue 6, page 10.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So yeah, we had after we did it, we had full intention of doing some interesting things with it, but unfortunately, it just didn't pan out. You know, I'd still love to revisit that. I mean, she didn't die, so there's an opportunity, I think, there to come back to her at some point in the future. Maybe that's sort of the basis of a return engagement. But yeah, the tattoo actually was Kevin's idea, and and we just ran with it. We started spitballing what it would mean and what would happen, and unfortunately, we didn't get the runway to tell that full story.
Cool. Minecraft Troller asks, whose idea was it to make Ash versus Dracula, or Classic Monsters, a sequel to the Dynamite Top Cow series Monster War?
Whose idea was it? That's a good question. I think that each series I did started with a pitch. It started with, sort of a couple of paragraphs about what I wanted to do. And I was looking for Ash to have some different foes that weren't specifically Deadites. And because the Deadites are great. I love the Deadites, but I felt like giving Ash kind of some different foils to play with would be something that really would allow us to kind of evolve our storytelling.
Sure.
Because even in Ash versus Reanimator, it still was a lot of Deadites. It wasn't really, it was a lot of influence from the Necronomicon. It wasn't, it certainly did have Herbert West's Reanimated Creatures, but it tied it into the Necronomicon specifically. And that was just a chance for us to tell some stories with different characters that, we had a lot of fun with. I thought it was almost a blank canvas, because if you go back and read Monster War, there wasn't, a lot of personality with the creatures. And so we had a chance to kind of inject our own creativity into them, into how they were, how they perceived, how they spoke, the things they did. So I think it just started as, I wanted to have Ash team up and fight with those classic monsters, and they agreed that it made sense, and that doing sort of a de facto sequel to that Monster War series was an opportunity to kind of tie into an existing world of monsters with the AOD lore.
Sweet.
Very cool. Jake.
Yeah. Another one. Does the Red Demon from the Long Road Home story have a name?
Does he have a name? We had a bunch of names for him, and I think they all got rejected. So at one point we just said, I'm not going to name him, because they, for whatever reason, MGM just hated the names that we put forth, and some of them were kind of snarky. The names, not MGM.
Yeah.
But it fit with AOD, and that really was one of Mike's pivotal input points was trying to come up with which direction we wanted to go with that particular creature.
Sure.
So no, I guess the answer is no. He didn't have a name because we couldn't get one approved. But the insight is that we had a bunch of very snarky names for him that just weren't approved. So kind of a weird little thing when you're working on licensing. There's always some odd,
Sure,
you don't expect
thing that they don't like. Hey, here's a funny story. Or you didn't ask me this, but here's a funny story. So there's a scene in Freddy versus Jason versus Ash. It's a nightmare scene where Freddy is given the business to Mrs. Voorhees, I guess is the way to put it.
Oh yeah, sure. Yeah.
And he's basically torturing Jason, right? So one of the things they couldn't get away from was that she didn't have the sweater on. We were like, well, she wouldn't be wearing the sweater in this scene, Mrs. Voorhees. And they're like, well, can you have the sweater folded up on the nightstand next to her? And we were like, really?
Okay.
like who's gonna know that's what this is? So Jason, I'm pretty sure, drew the sweater folded up on the nightstand. It was just really one of those weird things where a rights holder has some strange fixation on a particular facet of one of the films that really doesn't have anything to do with anything. But
sure.
But yeah, so it was like that. But
yeah, hilarious. Okay, Scott, did you have any plans for a storyline that never fully developed and were scrapped somewhere along the line before it was approved or released?
Yeah, there definitely were. The Freddy versus Leatherface was definitely one of them. But yeah, there always are along the way ideas that don't get used. I'm sure there are half a dozen different storylines and different facets of existing stories that we either cut or didn't have a chance to really implement into the page count that we had. It's like that with everything, though. I mean, that's a natural part of the writing process. Luckily, I will say that in my Army of Darkness runs, I never had a situation where the publisher cut the story length, which has happened to me before. If you read my $6 Million Man series, they had told me when they approached me, they wanted to do a full season, like a television season worth of issues, right? So we settled on 18 issues. So I wrote this huge prospectus on 18 issues worth of story. And that's why when you're reading the series, issues 1, 2, 3, and 4 are just jam-packed with stuff because there's so many different A, B, C, and D level storylines that are supposed to develop over the course of 18 issues. Well, at issue 4, so I was just going to write issue 5, they came to me and said, we're going to stop the series at issue 6. And I was like, how can you do that? I have all these threads. I can't finish an 18-issue story in two issues. And they were like, well, that's what we're doing. So that's why that story, I said, well, I'm going to focus on the A story, and then everything else going to have to be an epilogue because what can you do? At that point, I had freaking 12 issues worth of story to fit into 2 books. So yeah, it was brutal. I'm happy that I never had that with Army of Darkness. I'm still frustrated about the $6 Million Man because I loved that television show as a kid so much, and it meant a lot to me. It's one of the few good memories I have of childhood where my dad was a man's man, from the 70s, and he didn't really get comic books and stuff. But he would watch $6 Million Man with me, and that was, that meant more than just just me being a fan. So I really wanted to do it right for $6 Million Man. And I feel like the first issue really did. I had somebody say, one of the reviews was like, I've just read the greatest comic book ever. $6 Million Man punches a shark in the first issue. And I was like, well, see, that's what I want you to say. Yeah, I want you to be like, that's so ridiculous. I love it. And that
jump the shark, punch the shark.
Yeah. Well, I figured you can't jump the shark, you got to punch it. So
It's great. Excellent. James, it has been a pleasure. I do want to just lastly ask, it's a popular question, any upcoming conventions that we might see you at?
I am hard to track down at conventions. I don't do a lot of them, but usually if you're going to find me, it's going to be at a horror convention. I have done some of Monster Mania. I did Horror Hound a couple of years ago. Okay. I don't do a lot of comic conventions, though I've done Baltimore Comic-Con a couple of times and Chicago a couple of times. But
back to Chicago.
What, Chicago? Yeah, Chicago's great, man. For next year, I imagine I'll be at a couple of shows. They'll probably be horror shows. I'd like to make it back to Horror Hound again because that was just a wonderful show. And I'd never been to Cincinnati before. That's a nice town. So I'd like to go to that again. And Monster Mania, I definitely attend Monster Mania. I do the New Jersey one and the Baltimore one. I didn't make it to the Philly one. That was a couple of weeks ago. But hopefully I'll be able to set up at one of those again soon. And I think that the nice thing about that is just there's so many horror fans that have no idea these comics exist, and when they walk up to the table and they see, Fright Night and Return of the Living Dead and all the stuff that we do, there's always this like euphoria, where they found something, that they can enjoy. And I love meeting the fans. I get a lot of great questions, a lot of great interactions with fans. We have a good time, and I'm hopeful I'll get to some shows. Unfortunately, I don't know, as of this moment, I don't know which ones, but hopefully I'll get to some and get a chance to introduce some more people to what we're doing with all of American Mythology's horror stuff.
For sure. Excellent. We'll keep an eye out on James's socials for any upcoming appearances. Well, thank you so much for joining us today, James. This has been amazing, very enlightening, and really appreciate you taking the time to talk to us.
Yeah, it's my pleasure, man. Thank you guys for reaching out to me and for keeping the flame alive for Army of Darkness. I love the work, and hopefully, if enough fans see this and want me to get back into it, we'll find a way to hopefully get a couple more stories out of Dynamite.
Absolutely. There's a will, there's a way. Okay. Excellent. Well, thank you very much, James. I'll get you to hang around, but I will just remove you for a moment. And thank you very much, Jake, as well, for your co-hosting duties. You've been great. I'll talk to you in a moment as well. I just do have some news quickly regarding Army of Darkness comics. The Backer Kit campaign for the Army of Darkness board game from Dynamite and Lynn Vander, is in its very last days. Be sure to get in on that, and while you can find the Backer Kit link pinned to the top of the Army of Darkness comics Facebook page and Instagram as well. The second volume trade paperback of Tony Fleece's Army of Darkness Forever has a current release date of January 6th, which is actually looking promising. It's about time that we see that on our shelves. Ask your local comic store to pre-order. The collaboration between Army of Darkness and Archie Comics continues with the upcoming crossover series from writer Eric Burnham and artist Bill Galvin. Issue number 1 is set to release February 6th, 2026. Be sure to put yourself down for that series as well with your local comic store. Please join Jake and I every Wednesday on Instagram and share your favorite Army of Darkness covers with the hashtag Ash Wednesday, representing the Ghoul Division. Thank you as well for watching today. We'll be back soon with more groovy creator interviews for you primitive screwheads. Until then, shop smart, Shop at Smart. You got that?